we're not going to do an hour and a half, and we're always going to go right to the end or even over. So
I just have
Sorry,
one
we always
last thing.
Terry?
Yeah, one last thing. Regardless of whatever they end up using, I would hope that they would have a table. It doesn't have to be, you know, like this wide, so that someone, if they're in a big oversized wheelchair, can just use a table, and you can put the device on a table. Because all of these have their good points, but then there's some concerns too. And I don't know if any of these are going to work for everybody, so I would hope that would be the case.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
Artist and then Angela?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't break in earlier, but for some reason when I went on mute I couldn't get out of it again. I had to call back in. I just wanted to say, and we can email any other thoughts we had during this discussion, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Angela?
I have a question. I know that you said the second, because I definitely hear you about stability. I'm concerned about that as well. But the second concept, which is more like a table-based, is the only one that I could see that would actually meet code requirements, because the code requires a clear floor space. The others aren't going to give you that. So I think that we need to make sure that we're considering what the code says about working surfaces and tables.
Yeah, and to that point, I think that's a point that we've reiterated to the designers several times. We're going to take that one ahead, and I think you're talking about the building code and the ADA.
Right.
Okay, and so the good news is every time we talk to the designers, they have exponentially gained knowledge about accessibility, which is really great. And some specific designers in particular with IDEO are really taking the subject very seriously and doing some serious research on it. But it's always good to hear it said again so we can continue to take it forward.
And I think that's that's a perfect segue, Tim, to, before I hand it over to Monica, is kind of just give you a quick overview. It's been immensely valuable, and why it's very important to keep doing these updates with the committee. But you know, Monica's going to go over where things are going, what are the next steps in this design process. But what I just want to mention is, with regard to the IDEO team, the thing that's been very impressive and that kind of shows you their shift and how now they really want to start to really hone in on some specifics and start to crystallize something, is that they've gone from expanding their team of initially having just some good designers, some human factors people, and they're very creatives, kind of just listen and take in information, to now this last time that we met with the revised project team, they now have a mechanical engineer, a robotics engineer, human factors engineers. They have what they call a manufacturing specialist, which is the person who is an expert at knowing at what temperatures things melt and what the codes say about what this material, what the density of the material is, what it can withstand, what it cannot. And then also keeping the creatives on. Many of you spoke to Zach, who's like their whiz kid on user experience. So how do you design user experiences and user interfaces? So we're very excited at how they've grown the team, and it's sort of foreshadowing kind of what they're seeing, how deep they're going to delve into things now with the expertise and the people that they've made available to try and crack this, right, and try and figure out how do we get to something. And I think in the next iterations of discussions with you all, there'll probably be a lot more specifics of that, we're thinking, because of the type of people that they have on now and what they're going to be looking at and what they're doing. So very excited about it. And Monica, if you want to just go over kind of what are the, I guess, milestone pieces or next steps in my next series of milestones and so the rest of the year that we're going to be working on.
So we've initiated the next phase of the project. Like I said, this was the end of phase 1. So now what the IDEO team has actually begun to do is speak to more voters, and like we've mentioned before, some of you have already spoken with them, and if you haven't, some of you will have the opportunity to in the future talk to them as they continue to refine these concepts. So they're taking that information, they're taking feedback they got from us, from our technical advisory committee, from an advisory committee, and they're refining these concepts. So even today, as we present these concepts to you, they already have something that looks different. So they already have moved on from this and have began to refine the concepts. So we will continue to refine the concepts. What they will be doing is they will be producing some more like wood models of the concept, something a little sturdier that can be used to gain additional user feedback. We will be meeting with users within the next few weeks. They will be out here and we'll be talking to users. So we'll be reaching out to more of you. We want to engage as many of you as possible. And I just want to add on that point is that this was a continuous process. So if we didn't get you in the first round or the second round, we'll get you in the third or fourth. But there's a lot of rounds of this iteration. So they'll take those wood models, get some more user feedback, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to finally refine it and come up with that one concept what we think that the design will look like. So that voter experience single concept that we will be moving forward with. That process will take a few months. So we're looking at 3 to 4 months to have that one concept. Once we have that concept and we give it another round of presenting and getting feedback on it, what we're going to do is we'll develop what they call a looks like model or prototype of the system. So something a little more refined than the cardboard or the wood, and take that more refined concept for user testing. They'll start working on some requirements for the system, talking more about the software. So just really refining it more and getting it to a point where we have a prototype that actually looks and functions like the actual system would. So hoping, by this time next year we will have that works like prototype, hopefully, that we can present and move forward with. So those are kind of the next steps. This next part of the project, like I said, the narrowing down to one concept will take 3 to 4 months, and at that point, then we'll come back to you guys with more feedback.
Mm-hmm. Thank you again for all of your feedback.
Okay, so Julia's telling me that the other 3 items can be moved to the next meeting, and the next meeting's date is.
Want to do end of November, that would be Thanksgiving, or you want to do beginning of December?
Okay, so we're going to propose some dates by email because we're getting into that time of the year where we're into the holiday season. I'm thinking we might want to come back earlier than 2 months for an ideal update. So Hillary, we may consider something sooner than the 2 months since we get into the holiday stuff. Julie and I and Hillary will brainstorm on that a little bit. I apologize for 2 things. One is not knowing more about the state of the minutes. We'll definitely have the final version of that for you before last time for the minutes for today. Sorry about that. That was my doing, and not getting to the other items. But I think it was worth the cost of talking more about this very, probably the most important thing in our lives right now, which is the development of this voting system. So, we have a couple more minutes. Anybody want to bring up something else?
I'm really concerned about what you brought up. So that means that.
But you're talking to Angela.
Yes, Angela, thank you. Because that was a really important point, and of course, we may not be knowledgeable that is in the code, but yeah. It just seems like if the base of this was metal and flat, it's not going to be preventing a wheelchair from coming up. It's not going to prevent a person, or it's not going to trip a person. So I'm just.
You know what I envision, Terry?
I hate to see us go back to
base.
what has always been used that doesn't work very well, and that 4-legged thing. Most of our clients have not been able to ever vote using that.
Keep saying it, Terry, because we keep saying it to the designers, and I think they're getting it, and they know there's some voting systems out there that have always been vote election officials, and I think they want to, they have this great desire to sort of crack the nut and make the best system possible. So,
Oh, good.